Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
Can we ever have a grown-up debate about immigration? Matthew Taylor.
I think it's always difficult. I think issues of change people find hard, and I think the issue of immigration, of people arriving in new places, has always caused tensions throughout world history because it's always been part of world history. I don't think we should be too down on ourselves, though, actually. Not only is it the case that people in Britain are happier about living in mixed areas than people in most other countries. We're quite a cosmopolitan country now. I even see that latest statistics show that concerns about immigration are lower than they have been for a few years. I think one of the important things that has happened is that the issue of migration, the issue of race, have become unhooked slightly, which I think is important to that debate. So there are many people who are not white, but who are British citizens, who are opposed to more immigration. We had a major group of people coming into Britain from Eastern Europe. So the kind of toxic mix of race and immigration has, I think, been has moved apart, which I think is important. It makes it more possible to have the debate. But I hope that when we do have it, finally, that we just recognise that, it is a complicated and difficult issue. There's no question in my mind that overall, both for the world and for our country, that immigration is important. It's important to our dynamism. It's important to our future economic growth. It's important to our confidence in the world. It doesn't mean that there aren't difficulties and challenges created for particular communities, particularly deprived communities. But I just want to finish this one story, which is how quickly things change. A few years ago, I think a group that had arrived in this country, which kind of felt like a very new group, was Somalian people, and where had these people come from? And this was a new issue, people writing about it. I remember last week I was walking through London. It was the 20th anniversary, I think, of the establishment of Somaliland, and there was a demonstration near Parliament, and you think demonstration against Parliament is going to be moaning and shouting, and it wasn't. It was a celebration 20 years of independence. And as I went around London, there were people dressed in the flag. And it was a wonderful celebration, and I have to say at that moment, I felt incredibly proud to be in a country where people have come from adversity and feel so much pride about being people who have a combined identity, proud of their home country, but also proud of their new country.
Robert, you probably have more experience of this than anybody on the panel, in the sense that you presumably devoted a large...
I remember the Ice Age.
a large chunk of your life to examining the recurring themes of immigration, the sort of the positives and the negatives. Can we ever have a grown-up, i.e. a full and frank debate about immigration?
Well, I think we can, and I think we do. And I just came tonight, having met an Indian friend, and he said that he'd come here in the late 1960s, just after Enoch Powell's famous speeches, and it seemed that the country had been speaking of little else since then. So there's no absence of a debate, but it hasn't been a very good debate often. And I think that's because, in my sort of researches, it was just because it's such a large and various experience, migration. It's not a uniform experience. Some people come here as hedge fund managers from Wall Street. Other people come as refugees from Somalia, and those are not the same thing. I mean, my book was called Bloody Foreigners, and it really came from medieval times when someone from Yorkshire certainly thought that someone from Essex was a bloody foreigner, and in many ways still do. And racism is not unique to Britain. It's common and natural and deep and regrettable and violent and horrible all around the world. And it's something we have made mighty strides towards not eradicating, but dissolving to a huge extent. The rates of intermarriage, for example, are unusually high in Britain. There's many good aspects of that. It goes back to what I was saying. I mean, I think the trajectory has often been the same. Immigrants come, there is conflict. It's not an easy process. There are sad influences, there are tragedies, there are fairy stories, there are success stories. There's no one uniform experience of it. And yet, over time and time again in this country, we have actually rather succeeded in absorbing many, many different kinds of immigrants from many, many different kinds of religions, nationalities, races. And it's taken time, but we've been getting there over and over again in the end.
Can we have a dispassionate, rational and evidence debate about the economic and cultural benefits of immigration? Well, the answer is we haven't had such a debate. We'll find out today whether we can have it. We haven't had it because anyone who did oppose mass immigration into this country and the relaxation of the controls which allowed moderate but not mass immigration from the mid-1990s onwards, however dispassionate and rational and evidence-based they were, was automatically and immediately labelled a racist. I only became interested in this subject indirectly. I was interested in the housing situation in my constituency, where the big issue year after year was the constantly rising targets we had for building more houses. And I was looking and find the reasons for it, and they were varied. But the one reason that was never given was net migration into this country. When I looked into it, I found there was a net outflow from the southeast to the rest of the United Kingdom. The fact was that over the United Kingdom as a whole, 40% of new households were the result of net migration into this country. So I did publish my document. The immediate response of my political opponents in my thing, before they had read it, they declared I was a racist. Now, okay, I got them eventually to withdraw those things when they had read it. But that was the climate in which the debate, so-called, has operated for the last 20-odd years.
Is it changing now? Do you sense a slightly...
There's a bit of a change, partly because, as you all have noticed, the Labour Party got a bloody nose at the election, that Ed Miliband keeps going around saying we didn't take people's concerns about immigration seriously enough, and they didn't, and they are getting that message on the doorstep, and about time too. Margaret Hodge, to her credit, actually did raise the issue openly and confront it explicitly. But the basic attitude of the left in this country, and by the left I include naturally the liberal intelligentsia who control most broadcasting stations, but not this, wanted to suppress any debate about it. And we don't have any debate about it, seriously.
I look at it a slightly different way, and it's not whether we can, we've got to have a debate on immigration, because out there, everybody's talking about it. And if politicians don't engage in the issue which is uppermost in people's minds, you can't even start to rebuild the trust in politics that we need to get people to engage in a wider way in the political forum. So I think we must have a debate, and we've got to recognise that that debate is extremely difficult. Certainly when I raised it, I got accused of all sorts of things, from being a racist myself, although I am myself an immigrant. And that brings me to our second point, because if you're going to have a debate, you've got to be honest. And I have consistently said for a number of years now, politicians on both right and left are simply dishonest in talking about immigration. Because it's a toxic issue, because we fear that we'll lose people's support if we have that honest debate, we tend to talk about immigration in terms of controlling numbers coming into this country. And we've just got to move away from that. We have to understand that migration is a feature of globalization. We all travel more easily. And the idea that you can close your doors in any way to this global movement of people is just wrong. And you just look at the stats and it bears it out. You know, we started as asylum seekers. We closed the door for asylum seekers to come in. Then people came in for work permits. We're closing the door for people to come into work permits. They come in as students. We're going to close the door for people to come in as students. They'll come in as visitors. People will find a way to come here.